Good morning, guys. Today I wanted to go over how to read some electrical schematics from our vehicle. All right, we've been looking at basic simple circuits, kind of how to, reading where to read voltage. We talked about power supply, load part of a circuit, and the ground path, and how to troubleshoot some of those. Then we even talked about parallel and series circuit in terms of what's used more commonly in a vehicle. A parallel circuit's much more common. But I want to get into an activity next week with you guys where we're actually checking some of these voltage readings within our vehicle. All right, that should be a safe, pretty straightforward way of doing it, and I'll walk you guys through next week. But I kind of want to go through some of the stuff that you would see on a schematic, an actual schematic for a vehicle, and see how to read these plans, how to read these schematics, read these drawings, and actually find out where we're testing things in our vehicle. All right. So what I have here, let me see if I could back this up a little bit. What I have here is this is for I had an old Ford Bronco, '95 Ford Bronco, and this is the book. In fact, if you guys look at the little picture down the screen, this is the book. The cover's ripped off, but that I would use to troubleshoot any electrical or the vacuum system as well, which we haven't covered too much, but this has that as well. I will say like 95% of that book is electrical. On the Ford Bronco, the vacuum system was pretty straightforward. So just to take a look at this is our ignition switch. So we're looking at our charging system here, making sure that our alternator is working correctly and that our battery is good. All right. And so I'll look at these diagrams if I have to troubleshoot anything. Is what I'd like to do in class is just confirm that they're good. Hopefully you have a working vehicle at your house, so we're expecting everything to check out just fine. But then if it doesn't, I would come back to this document here if I was working on my Ford, and then I would use this to help troubleshoot my problems. So as you can see here, this is your ignition switch. This is exactly how you turn your key on your vehicle. All right. Typically, it's in the off or lock position. You turn it backwards. You have your accessory lights that come on. You can turn on your radio and stuff like that. But when you turn your key, I don't even know how much you guys realize this. When you turn your key to start your car, you turn it all the way. Once your car stops, you take your hand off. Your key actually turns back a little bit and it goes into this run position. So when you turn your key, you're going all the way over here to the start position. And as what that's doing, that is sending as much amps to your starter as possible. All right. Even in some older cars, you would see, like, let's say I had a dome light on in my car, and I'd go to start my car, and that dome light would go real dim or not even go off altogether because so much current is going to that starter motor that all other systems in the car kind of dim down a little bit. Now, in modern cars, that's not much of a problem, but it is you are sending an insane amount of amps to that starter motor to start your car just for a second. All right. Once you get a couple turns on that flywheel, all right, then you start those strokes, those four combustion strokes that we talked about, and then you kind of everything else takes over. All right, but just to get that initial start for like a second or two, you're in the start position, and all power is going to that thing. But once you're in the run position, I just want to kind of go over and how to read these things. All right. So if I was to troubleshoot this is nice. I would be able to find this cluster, and I can go ahead and I can look at this page of my vehicle if I need to know where that is. All right. And I'm looking for this wire to come out of that. Wires, it's just numbered wire 16. All right. This RLG, this is going to be a red wire with light gray stripes. It might be light green. I'm not 100% sure. If I remember correctly, I no longer have this vehicle, so I couldn't confirm it. If I remember correctly, though, it was light gray stripes. All right. This wire is coming down here. It's going into a power distribution board. All right. And this, what that typically means is it's going into all your fuses and your switches that kind of control the systems of your vehicle. All right. And that's a safety thing, right? We want our power to go right through a fuse before it goes anywhere in our car, because that fuse is a protector for everything else on the other side of that fuse. So that's what that power distribution. And I think I even took yeah, I did take it. So this is, if you look over here on this part of the circuit, this is what it's talking about. It's coming off here. Wire 16, red and light gray, is going to my instrument cluster. All right. And if I wanted to find out more information about my instrument cluster, I can go to this page right here, which is right here. All right. And so again, we have that same symbol right here, same wire 16, same contacts 206, distribution, go back to that page, but it's coming into right here. All right. So I'm hoping you kind of see, like, you can't fit everything on one page. Circuits are too complex. So you have to reference other pages, and they kind of simplify things as they go through it. And so that's just a quick walkthrough of just getting to this charge indicator. You should have a little battery on your dash that says everything is working good, you know? And then, of course, if we're dealing with other parts of our car, these are the other, your fasten seatbelt light, your high beam lights. I'd have to look exactly what they mean by illumination, probably just your lights, and then your left and right blinker. So this is the circuit. That's that instrument cluster on your dash that gives you any warning lights or indications of things that are going on in your car. All right. You may even have like a 4-wheel drive light on there or something like that. All right, let me go back up to the top though. So we got a couple of things we got going on here. Just so you guys see that, see, this is covered with a dash line. All right, I have a dash line here. That means that they're referencing an instrument cluster, but they're only referencing part of it. All right, if I come down here to 60-4, all right, so again, there's this, even on this instrument cluster, it's dash line means there's more going on in this circuit than what you're seeing right there. They're simplifying this view for you because there's more going on there. So anytime you see a dashed box, all right, they're just focusing on the aspect, in this case, the ignition switch. But in this box, there must be some other harness or wiring in there that's in addition to the ignition switch, that is not detailed out in this drawing. So dash box just means that you don't have all the stuff there, but you have what you need. All I need is the ignition switch, so that's all they're laying out in the schematic. Let's go back up here. So same thing with this instrument cluster. Obviously, we're going through that. Now, I'll get into some of this in a minute. These little symbols right here, that kind of V-shaped thing or U-shaped thing right here, and then down here, that lets you know that that's a harness somewhere right there. All right, and we could actually find this harness. That's the number of the harness right there. So we could actually find that harness. And what's kind of crazy, when this comes in here, it goes into this instrument cluster. When it comes out, I'm looking for now a light gray wire with red stripes. All right, so where I had a red wire with light gray stripes going in from my ignition switch, I'm now looking for this wire. And this is really important because you're going to have a cluster of, you may have 25 wires right there. All right, so what wire do you have to track or follow or anything like that? And so there's so many wires in a vehicle, you can't just have red, blue, yellow, green, so they have these like candy cane stripe ones and stuff like that to help differentiate between those wires. And all that striping it's just installation. It just makes sure that current that's flowing down that wire stays on that wire. If that insulation ever wears off or rubs off, now that wire could technically touch another piece of metal, and now you have power going into that piece of metal when you want it to go down that wire. All right. So this is pretty good. Now I'm now looking for a light gray wire with a red stripe. And then for some reason it goes into another wire harness. And we'll go look at that. So it says, hey, reference page 151-2. Now these black boxes here, all right, that means you get actually a pictorial diagram. So this is a wiring schematic, all right. A pictorial diagram is actually a picture with the wires drawn in. So let me scroll down here, 151-2. Oh, and it said 151-2A8. All right, so I'm going to look on the A8 section of 151-2. All right, and so I have A8. There's my wire harness C202. Follow that down. That's where it is. So if I have to check that wire harness, if I'm not getting power there or something's wrong, I now have a pictorial diagram that gives me the location of that. All right, this right here is my brake booster. You can see this is the front of the vehicle. So if I'm looking at the vehicle, this would be my left blinker. This would be my right blinker. All right. This is where the driver would sit right here. This is your brake booster. And then I have, looks like something there. I'd have to find it a little closer. But now I know the location of that. So that's how I'm reading through these documents here. And I'm just going to keep going through. And if I felt like I needed to test something right there, Like, hey, everywhere there's a wire harness, that's the first thing you test. All right, if you're not getting power to a certain thing, you track down these wire harnesses and check them there. They're the first thing that goes out, and they're typically the easiest to find. Like if you have a break in your wire, you got to follow that all the way around everything. Check your harnesses first. It's a better approach. It's more efficient. If they're all good, well, then now you got to dig a little deeper. So again, I'll keep going through here. 151-2C1. All right, to find where this thing comes in right here. I'm not quite sure what that is. I could reference other pages in the book to find out what that is. So I got C139. Come down here. What was the location? I forgot. 151-2C1. All right. So I got C1, 139. There's another wire harness right there. All right. So now, and that's probably just because it's pipe and wire closer to your alternator, because I think my alternator is right there. Yeah, it is. They call it a generator in this book. A generator, alternator are synonymous. So that's that wire harness right there. Cool. So now I'm finding I have a wire harness back here, and then somehow it's connected to this wire harness over here, routed through other things. Again, I would check the harness first before I try to follow that wire all the way through there. I'll keep going through this, guys. We're going into, so now we're coming in through here, and we're going into our voltage regulator and our alternator. All right. On a side note, just so you guys are aware, a rectifier right here. So your car runs on DC voltage, direct current. All right. That's that's power that comes out of batteries. Your cell phone runs on that. Even things like your TV and your laptop all run on direct current. But what happens when you plug them into a wall, they have what's called a rectifier inside that little wall wart. Typically, you have a box on the cord that plugs into your TV. It's probably inside the TV, but on your laptop or computer, you have a box in the middle of your cord. That's converting alternating current, or AC voltage, into DC voltage to run your device. All right, or to, I guess, to charge your battery. So just know we are running on DC current. Your house outlets are running on AC current. There's some similar stuff there, but they're not all the same. All right, it's not the same. So everything we're going to cover in this class is DC, or direct current, and it's a little different than the stuff that powers your house. But so is what happens. Your generator, your alternator, as it rotates, it actually creates AC current. So this rectifier right here actually converts that AC current to DC current. All right, and an alternator, it generates power just like a dam. All right. Essentially, we're using the engine as it's firing through its strokes. It's 4 compression strokes, and everything's firing off. And you have these belts that are turning your alternator. You're actually, through gasoline, that combustion process, you're actually turning your alternator through that process. And by your alternator spinning, it's creating electricity. It's the same thing on a dam. All right. You have a bunch of water on one side of a dam. All right, you let water out. It goes down a tube, and that water, as it goes into the river, it spins a turbine. All right, and that turbine generates electricity. Now that's a simplified version of it, but it's the same process. All right, so we are mechanically spinning something to generate electricity, and then in the case of a dam, we are using the water current to spin a turbine that generates electricity. So it's the same thing. It's just a localized thing on your car. Anyway, once it goes through this bridge rectifier, it's now converted over to DC current. And then I don't know exactly whether it's going through your regulator at that point, and then it's going back to your battery to charge your battery. All right. And so that's how I'm finding everything here, to understand if I'm troubleshooting, if I'm not getting power to my battery, I'm checking these systems, and I'm using these pictorial diagrams to find out where the harness is, and what else is going on. All right. This right here, I got my generator, again, generator, alternator, same thing, and my voltage regulator. So I have these two things. I can find out where they are: 151-2 F5, 151-2 F5 right here. Here's the symbol. This is kind of nice. I have a separate voltage regulator from my alternator. On the video I'll show you guys next week, I'm doing it on my Toyota, and the regulator is inside the alternator, which kind of sucks in the sense where if the regulator goes bad, I probably got to swap out the entire alternator. Where in this instance right here, it's kind of nice where they're separate from each other. So if one goes bad, the other one may still be good. I don't have to pay for replacing two things. But that's how that whole thing works. So again, I'm finding locations of stuff. I'm referencing schematics, and then I'm moving to a pictorial to find where things, and then I could use my probes to test everything. Let's see what's over here. Um, More stuff going on. All right. One of the other things I want to show you guys. So these are all wire harnesses. Boom. That's a wire harness. That's a wire harness. That's a wire harness. Looks like I have a gray and white, gray wire, white stripe going to my headlamps. All right. Again, dark gray, light gray. I'm assuming that's what it stands for, DGLG. But when I have this dashed line connecting all these wire harnesses, all right, that means these are all clustered together. Wire 16, wire 932, wire 450, 19, and wire 2 are all going to be clustered together. So I'm expecting to see all those wires together going into this instrument cluster at the same location. All right. And then on the exit part, on the out, I'm expecting all of these wires to be clustered together, going to the same location, going into the same thing. So that just helps me out a little bit more if I have multiple clusters of wires going into one box or module, sensor, something like that. I can be like, okay, hold on, I'm looking for this wire. I see these two, so I think I'm in the right spot. I can go ahead and try and find this one. That's really the main things I want to show you guys today. I just want to expose you to this because next week I'd like to actually try and get us to check out our vehicle. So again, I just want to expose you guys to this stuff. This is for a 95 Ford Bronco. If we're going to do some extensive wiring for your vehicles, like I do recommend that you guys get these manuals for your car. Some of them, depending on your vehicle, some are more expensive than others. Maybe it's not worth it, but it does help, especially if you have an older car you want to work on, or if you want to just rehaul an entire vehicle. I would not do it without one of these. All right, I got this with the intent of redoing my entire Ford Bronco, and I just never got around to doing a lot of it. But still, I reference this stuff all the time as things would go out because it's an older car. It had 250,000 miles on it. The electrical system was failing all the time. All right, but it was easy to fix because I had this manual. Anyway, I just want to cover and expose that to you guys. Hopefully that all made sense. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, please let me know.